Three of us so far, maybe need a fourth. Does the youth member count in our a quorum?
Purposes of reaching a quorum, no.
Use your computer to see.
Yeah. For anyone who is watching online currently, we are waiting for an additional member to join us, so we have a quorum to start the meeting. We have a quorum now.
Okay, I would like to bring to order the Commission on Equity meeting, Monday, February 26th, 5:30-ish. I'd like to read the land acknowledgement. We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian tribe and the Squaxin Indian tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed and relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as our traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as it is today. We recommend that the community members read the Medicine Treaty of 1854. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda, the previous meeting minutes, and the consent items.
Solution.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Second. Right. been approved.
Chair, you do need to take a vote.
Oh, and, yes, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All, opposed? Okay, here's the moment for, public comment. Do we have anybody online or telephone?
Just before we move on to public comment, I just want to confirm that the motion carried.
Oh, I believe the motion carried. Thank you. Mhm. Moving on to public comment. Do we have anyone online or on telephone?
Here we have no one online, and we do have some members in attendance.
Is there anybody in attendance that would like to make a public comment at this time? And we haven't received any written comments this month. I'd like to ask Commissioner Stolberg to present our inspirational item.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can hear me. Yeah,
Loud and-
okay. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I just have a brief quote. It's by Martin Luther King Jr. It's one that I really like. And it reads, just a second. Okay. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound by the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word. That's it.
Commissioner, there be a volunteer to bring us a inspirational item next month?
Sure, I'll do it.
All right,
It's Women's History Month,
Commissioner
so.
Hart. All right. Moving into the business items. Today we have a number of presentations. First one up is Thurston County Economic Development Council. And Myra Pena and Sean Moore. Take it away.
Good evening. I'm Sean Moore, Director of the Center for Business and Innovation at the Thurston Economic Development Council. I know many of you, some of you I've just met for the first time. And I'm joined by Myra Pena, who's our BIPOC Business Community Liaison. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the resources that we offer at the Thurston Economic Development Council Center for Business and Innovation for businesses, and some of the work that we've done to ensure that the services are being equally accessed. And then Myra is going to talk about her experience convening and working with a BIPOC task force over the last 2 years. So if you want to go to the next slide, please. So I got it.
You
Thank
can
you.
control it right over there.
Awesome. So those of us not super familiar with what we offer, and some of us know what we offer, some of us don't. We have over a dozen programs that support entrepreneurs in any stage of business. Within the Center for Business and Innovation, which is right down the street there at the South Puget Sound Community College campus in Lacey. We have the Apex Accelerator, which is a statewide program, and the director of Apex Accelerator is in our office, and Apex Accelerator helps businesses to navigate contracts with the federal, state, and city governments. And so it helps at no cost to advise usually businesses that are in growth stage, how to go after government contracts, win government contracts, and then perform on government contracts. So it's a great service. Again, that's no cost. Everyone's familiar with the Lacey Makerspace. That's been under our financial care since the beginning in 2019. And hopefully everyone's been and saw the new expansion of the Makerspace. We will have the public grand opening here coming up in March 23rd or 24th, I believe. And so it looks a lot different than when I saw it in 2019. And a great opportunity for workforce training and entrepreneur prototyping and all kinds of cool stuff. At the Center for Business and Innovation, we have SBA Women's Business Center, one of about 142 in the country. And so that's a women's business center supported by a grant through the Small Business Administration. We provide no-cost business advising through the Women's Business Center. We also have a number of training programs that we partner with the WCWB on. We do have our Inspire Women's Business Conference coming back on May 23rd. So I hope that everyone will join us for that. It's the first time we'll be in person since the pandemic. And so that's an exciting event. We also offer a number of other resources through the Women's Business Center, including a quick startup program, which is an online incubator. And the city of Lacey does provide scholarships for that program. So folks that have a product that they want to get to market, then they can get a scholarship. And that helps to have an online store set up for them and helps with some marketing training to get them off the ground and selling as soon as possible, which is sort of our motto at the Center for Business and Innovation, lean startups. So don't spend a bunch of money in the beginning, try to start lean, get your products out in the market, sell, get some profit, then maybe move into that 5,000 square foot space. We also have an agricultural park. It's opening up here. I believe the grand opening will be sometime this summer, and that's exciting. Then we have a small business development center in our Center for Business and Innovation, and that offers no-cost business advising. It's another SBA program that's paid for by the SBA. In terms of training, we offer our no-cost Intro to Business course that's available in English and Spanish and Hindi, in Korean and in Vietnamese online. We also have a monthly webinar in English in that. We have our Next Step course, Business Enterprise Startup Training. And that course is a great course for startups, and there are scholarships available for Lacey residents, and it teaches people how to write a business plan, teaches them about accounting for startups, teaches them how to market and brand their startup, how to structure and license their startup, and then also how to protect their intellectual property. And so it's a great introductory course online that's scholarshiped out. We have a backlog of videos online on our Women's Business Center website, about 60 plus videos on all kinds of business topics. Our new program manager created the Inspire Women's podcast, which airs bi-weekly, and she actually talks to small businesses in the region, talks about their experiences, and so that's a great podcast to check out. We talked about Quick Startup already. In terms of growth training programs, we have a number of training programs for sort of next step businesses. And so we administer the Scale Up training program on behalf of the Department of Commerce. It was a program that we incubated, and the Department of Commerce liked it so much, they picked it up, and now it's available statewide at no cost to businesses. It's a growth training program for businesses that have been in business for 2 years or more. And it really teaches them how to set up systems and get from that 6-figure revenue to that 7-figure revenue. I apologize, my voice is going. It's only Monday too. What's going on? Along these lines, we also have a business tune-up program that we offer scholarships for to City of Lacey residents, and that's sort of a next step online course that helps folks to set up their QuickBooks accounting, write operation plans for their business. And again, I mentioned the Inspire Women's Business Conference that's coming up May 2nd, and we hope that everyone can join us for that. Okay.
I have a question,
Yeah.
actually. What do you offer? I see a lot of stuff for like startup businesses, women in business. Do you offer anything for existing like refresher type of things? You know, business owners tend to get super busy. Some things may fall through the cracks at the very beginning because maybe there was a lack of understanding. What do you have for current businesses that may need a refresher?
So, and I'll get to the pathways here in a second, for the growth businesses, but Scale Up is one of the more popular growth phase business, and so it's for businesses that have been in business for 2 years or longer. It's a really popular statewide program, and it's got a 97% approval rating in terms of 90% of businesses that went through it would recommend it to another business. We offer the no-cost business advising that goes through the Small Business Development Center, and that's available specifically for growth phase businesses or businesses that have been in business for a long time that just need someone to talk to and talk through things. And so that's another option. In terms of, businesses that have been around for a while, that kind of gets into our other side of the house with research and stuff like that.
Got it. Okay.
So this is sort of our pathway for startups and starting with our intro to business program. We have a number of different options. If someone has a business idea, they can or a idea for a physical product, they can make it at the Lacey Makerspace. They can get a quick startup scholarship to start selling online if they're a women-owned business, or they can get no-cost advising or online training. We try to create programs to meet the needs of, you know, the various generations who all have different preferences in the way they like to interact in the world. So we have our online and then our in-person stuff as well. And then for the growth phase training, it really starts with that scale-up training network. We are hopefully reinvigorating the Think Network, which was a local investment network that we ran for many years and had many successful funding projects, so that's been sort of dormant since COVID. Again, the government contracting is a great growth stage pathway in terms of finding, you know, you never know what the government's gonna buy. It's amazing some of the things they contract for. So it's and then the continued advising with the Small Business Development Center. So this is our air traffic control website. It's businessresources.thurstonedc.com. And so if you have questions, you can just be guided to all the resources based on your stage and business there. And we do have a list of events that we put on for a bunch of our partners too. So you can always see there's a lot of great training events for next, you know what I mean, step, you know what I mean, for existing businesses that don't flow through us. And so we try to put our partner trainings on there. There's a lot of import-export trainings, the Small Business Development Center and stuff. They're quite useful for some businesses. Any questions, info@wcwb.org. These are our interactions from over the last year. So we had 520 interactions with BIPOC businesses, 820 interactions with women-owned businesses, and 189 interactions with veteran-owned businesses.
So what does that compare to your overall con?
It's right around 30%. Yeah, and we see that number sort of across most of the things that we do in terms of training. And that kind of lines up, you know what I mean, when you look at the population demographics, you know, that's, you know, a pretty good number comparatively to other organizations. And so we feel real good about us getting the message out. You know, we have someone in the community that's.
Just to clarify, those three groups are 30% of
I would say that
your customers.
the women are probably more like 40 or 50%, and then BIPOC is probably about 30%. Veterans is gonna be more like 3-4%.
How are you reaching out? Like, what type of outreach are you doing in the community to help drive that up further?
To me, so, you know, I'm not from this area, but my take on this area is it's a little old school in the way of networking. And so I think being out in the community, Myra being out in the community and reaching out to people, going to the events, you know what I mean? That FaceTime, I think, goes a long way in this community, you know, a lot more than you would probably see in Seattle or in Portland. And so I think that's a big, you know what I mean, a big part of folks, you know, being able to feel like they, you know what I mean, the resources are for everyone. The other thing I think that we pride ourselves on also is customer service. And so anybody that comes in, we help them right away and we try to get them, you know what I mean, some sort of resource immediately. And I think that builds trust and that builds, you know what I mean, people coming back and telling other people that, you know, this wasn't a dead end. It was, you know what I mean, there was a pathway at least, or there was a reference at least, you know what I mean, to a resource that we could take advantage of. So I think that goes a long way with humans in general.
So I see Apex there,
Mhm.
they do contracting, government contracting. I'm wondering if we can work with the state directly about state contracting opportunities. Maybe I'll need to contact you guys later to see
Mhm.
some possibility how we can collaborate further.
And so, yeah, Apex is really, it's a resource that helps people to understand all of the requirements for government contracting. So there's a lot of red tape with anything, you know what I mean, that you're working on. And so there's a lot of different, you know, numbers you have to get, like UEI numbers and, you know what I mean, SAM.gov registrations, and all these things can be barriers. And so, Apex helps get past those initial barriers, then look for actual contracts using a program called Bid Match. And then once the contracts are identified, making sure that it's a good fit for the business and their capacity and all that kind of stuff. So they really hold the hand of the business all the way through the process. So for the last 2 years, these are the total number of business starts we've had through the Center for Business and Innovation and the Women's Business Center. So 48 total. Of course, 44 of those were women and 13 were BIPOC. So we feel pretty good about our outreach, but we can always do better. You know, we can
So
always do better.
those 48 businesses had received a different varying degree of service, right? Some are more longer and
Absolutely.
deeper and
Yeah.
some are maybe.
Yeah, it's all a case by case. And so in some cases, a business will come in and they just need to write a business plan. They access one resource, they're on their way. In other cases, they need a lot more hand holding. They need to write a business plan. They want advising, they want help with their marketing, they need a logo and, you know, so on and so forth. And so it can definitely, yeah.
So if you find somebody needing, help in marketing, do you help or do you refer them to somebody?
So we have the Women's Business Center program manager does real well with marketing. And so she'll work with them one-on-one and she does a lot of brochures and logos, you know what I mean, for people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not necessarily that she should be doing that, but she, yeah, does it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
That looks like there was only one business that was not women or BIPOC.
so
Is that?
a lot of the records are kept through the Women's Business Center database. Yeah, and so out of the 48, 44 were women and 13 were BIPOC women. So there was only, 3 or 4 men that's, you know, we worked with. So. But the nature of the marketing is such that we attract a lot more women because the Women's Business Center marketing stands out so much. We don't necessarily market the Center for Business and Innovation as we market the individual programs. Yeah.
And do you only accept businesses within Thurston County?
No, we work with businesses statewide. Yeah, so the Scale Up program is statewide, the Women's Business Center is statewide. The Apex Accelerator is statewide. There's 15 or 20 counselors throughout the state. Small Business Development Center is a statewide program also, nationwide really. All right. I think the next slide is, I think we did questions already, so there's Myra's.
Oh, no, sorry, just look up, just up there. Okay, right. See, I'm gonna have to stand up.
You want me to do the slides, Myra?
Yes, please.
Wow, that's me.
That's okay. You all know who I am, Myra Pena. I'm BIPOC Business Community Liaison. I've been in the position for about 2.5 years. And really moving forward with, I've been working at the EDC for more than that, for over 7 years now in another position. And I've always seen that the work of the EDC, work for minorities and marginalized communities have always been embedded. And I think Sean mentioned some of that already with the Center for Business and for the Women's Center. Also, some of the programs we have in different languages. So, but it seemed, here we go. Looking at this thing here. So I just want to give you a little bit of background on the work that I was tasked to do and also on the BIPOC Business Task Force. So in 2022, the Thurston Economic Development Center partnered with Thurston Strong. I'm going to come on this side because I'm having a hard time seeing that. Oh, that's much better. To ask my position to stand up a BIPOC business task force. And the purpose was to assess the resources, the community resources and the community needs for entrepreneurs in the area. So, one of the first responsibilities of the task force was participation in selection of a grant from the American Rescue Plan grants. And they were the Thurston's Target Zone grant programs. They chose 10 startup businesses, which were given each $100,000, and they really successful businesses. I think Out of the 10, 3 or 4 of them were from the city of Lacey, 5 of them were from the city of Lacey. And, you know, they were businesses that went through many of our programs, you know, they started with nothing and they came to us. You know, we helped write business plans, helped, you know, just move them forward, and they're doing really well.
We have more grant coming up for that.
No, those were specific for, you know, COVID and ARPA grants, so. The task force did get together, and they came up with their own strategic goals. And, you know, the summary was, 1, to understand the needs of the BIPOC entrepreneurs. So, you know, in order to get that, they met and engaged with, community groups, and also individual entrepreneurs. And then secondly, they wanted to understand the resources in the region already. I mean, resources are constantly changing and growing. So, I mean, even at the EDC, you know, part of my work is to be a navigator to help people understand the resources. You know, I'm always learning. So they had a steep learning curve. And then last was to make recommendations after they studied the needs, and the resources, to make recommendations for change or implementations to address these gaps.
So
I just-
Myra, can I?
Yes.
So those 10 businesses received a huge grant? Do
Yeah.
you follow through them and see where they are?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, you know, that was one of the things that I do, kind of a little bit of an account manager. I'm in touch with them all the time, and these are people that speak different languages, that have come from different countries. And, you know, we've really have a great heart connection, and they're flying. I mean, those businesses, we've got Jerkentings, VBNC, who, this is a gentleman that came from, I think it was Honduras, from Paraguay, thank you, from Paraguay. He was working as a physical therapist for, you know, one of your big corporations, and just before COVID, and then he found out that first he was doing, you know, work for a client, you know, they gave him a half hour, and then they moved him, no, can only work 15 minutes, and then they said, no, you can only work 7 minutes, and he, you know, just had it. And so he was brave enough, he said, I'm gonna start my own business. And so he was one of those startups that we've now taken forward. And he's, I think, in the whole state, one of 2 physical therapists that work with vertigo. And, you know, really high tech.
There you
Yeah, so in Lacey, if you know of anybody that needs that, feel free to check with me. Anyway, real quick, this is some of the folks on the task force. We wanted a mixture of community leaders, business owners, and so Corbett Mosley was with Pac Mountain at the time, our very own Lakita Hart. Marcus Glesper was Washington State. He was with, at the time, the lottery, and now he's with another agency.
He's with DOL.
Right, DOL, yeah. We got Pineda, who has now started his own business. Parfait was with SPSEC. Stephanie Shalmondali, a wonderful lady who has a daycare center, kindergarten in the garden. Wonderful person. And Tony Taylor, he's also on the EDC board. Viz Nahoy, an attorney, and Ian Poon, who was with the City of Olympia Council. Yeah. Okay. Quick overview, you know, the process of creating recommendations and, you know, how the task force was going to do that. One of the things that they chose to do was to put out a survey to get that direct information on what the needs were. And the survey went out from December of 2022 to March of 2022. It went out to small business owners. It went out to you know, municipalities. It went out to individuals. So we tried to get it out as far as we could. And again, the goal was to get that feedback. What were the needs of the entrepreneurs, pretty much. So the recommendations that after the survey came in and the task force looked through the survey, after they did their, you know, the due diligence of the other aspects of their strategic goal, they broke down their recommendations into 5 major topics, which included overarching matters of supporting of existing BIPOC businesses, support of new BIPOC startups, and encouragement of youth. And then from there, the major topics, the 5 major topics, which kind of cross between all these 3, were accessing capital, networking and mentorship, outreach, and young adults and budgets. So we can just go to the next one. So we'll start with assessing capital. We all know that finding alternative resources for capital, especially to historically excluded small businesses, is key. And so a number of ideas were brought up. One was to use like nonprofit administrated microloans. Another one was SUSU community loans. These are loans where the community puts the money in and it's sort of like a trust thing. So, and also small SBA, small business loans, which are a little bit of a lesser barrier. Also support for readiness for loans. So working, you know, the EDC has, can help with feasibility, with business plan, with marketing, and also just to educate on the best use of capital itself and repayment so that they're not just given the money and let loose. Okay. Networking and mentoring. Mentorship was also important. So there was a talk of non-traditional and alternative forms of networking that included different social norms, that addressed some of the barriers like childcare and that offered authentic nurturing food. Also productive networking that offered opportunities, not simply social events. And last was mentorship and the importance of mentorship with like minds coming together.
Myra,
Yes.
so you provide all these services?
No, not all of them, some of them, but also we collaborate with organizations for some of them, like specifically the loans that we talked about earlier. So, yeah. And I'll kind of talk about the how we're gonna do this
Okay.
in a minute. Next, please. And, you know, outreach was a really big topic. We know there's a lot of resources and getting the word out, getting those barriers down so that people know what's out there and that they feel comfortable, you know, being part of the community and accepting and joining in with these barriers was addressed quite a bit. So, you know, the idea of building community bridges, you know, identifying through social media, influencers, that sort of thing, collaborating, which we do quite a lot with trusted community organizations, you know, Cielo, Hispanic Roundtable. I was just at Mi Centro in Tacoma, just the Korean Center, just a lot of trusted community partners. So, and of course, language accessibility. We do offer Scale Up in Spanish and Intro to Business in 5 languages. So those were the things that the task force addressed, like these are important things to deal with. And then, you know, the young adults, it's like this is our next generation and how important it is to show young adults that entrepreneurship could be a life pathway. You know, not everybody wants to necessarily go to college and be an administrator. So, you know, just connect with colleges, schools, and youth mentorship. And last but not least, budget, you know, just, you got to put it in writing. You know, we need money, everyone in order to do the work. So it was important that the task force wanted that down there. You know, we can say a lot, but we have to put money towards what we want to do. Okay. And so the question that you asked is, how do we get to these resources? I mean, out to the community. Next. So again, you know, some of this is already out there, and you know we do, and but accessing capital, we want to continue to create a partnership with alternative and innovative resources. Like I said, the microloans, investors and small business grants. I know we partner with like Impact Washington, Business Impact Northwest, and also with banks for SBA loans and Small Business Development Center. So basically, when it comes to capital, working with our partners and networking and mentorships, organize, collaborate with existing underserved entrepreneurial networks, focused on cultural diversity, including time for open networking and discussion, and through the networking event, initiate mentorship programs. Outreach to continue expanding our community outreach and dialogue regarding language barrier, gaps in promotion. Again, continue our outreach with Spanish Scale Up and our different languages, programs like Intro to Business. Young adults, again, connect in the schools, and at the end, budget, identify funds for what we need to do, okay? And that was fast, I hope. Any questions?
Did somebody have a question? So starting the new businesses that are just starting, it's like, I mean, I'm not asking you do the tax for them, but do you like provide some how to file tax advice at all?
So we provide the basic knowledge of the accounting requirements for a startup in relation to the tax that will be owed, in relation to, what you need to keep track of your accounting. And then we provide a class on how to set up the QuickBooks chart of accounts and run financial statements. Really, the tax piece of it, they have to go out and pay someone to do the taxes for them. To Myra's point, though, working with Business Impact Northwest and Tequila, they really have the small business loan game dialed in the sense that they administer all the SBA loans in Washington, and they even do Oregon and Idaho and Alaska. And so we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we tried to, try to copy what they're doing, because they do it so well. But along with their programming, they have the credit repair services, they have, financial classes for folks and stuff that all go along with this package of, applying for a loan. And so they take care of a lot of that sort of, nuts and bolts training, pre-loan. And then also, working with people to help them understand how to spend the money and where to spend the money, so.
I wonder if it might be valuable for us to see the summary of that BIPOC business survey. Kind of what you learn. I
So
mean,
there's
it
a
might
report,
help us.
Yeah, and we could definitely email you the report. We really didn't release the survey because we had to kind of scrub it a bit, because there's a bunch of people that filled it out that weren't really the target audience. And so, but the summary of the survey is all in the report, and we could definitely have a look at that. It really hasn't been released for public consumption. But we've talked to our board about it and stuff like that, so we're happy to send that off to you. Yeah.
Might add to our
Yep.
our information that we have, yeah.
And just quickly, my position, I am an asset to the community. So, you see how intricate all of this is. If you know of entrepreneurs that want to start a business or that are in the middle of business or just have questions, of course, we have our hotline, we have, folks in EDC and as well as myself, send them to me, anyone who you think might be, maybe a little shy or a little hesitant or language barriers. Even if it's not Spanish, I'm very good with other languages. Just send them to me and I sit down with them and just spend, half hour to an hour listening, talking, and then I put an email together and say, these are here's some pathways to start, and then we'll continue to hold their hands throughout, but, and I'm happy to leave my card, so.
Yeah, Myra's been doing an amazing job of actually
Yay,
really
Myra.
working with people, like spending hours and hours and hours with people, because they need that kind of attention. And so, and yeah, the referrals are the best type. I mean, there's always a trust issue, with resources, and it's unfortunate, but if we can get referrals, that breaks that trust barrier down immediately. And so that helps to, really get people access to the resources.
Yeah, trust and knowledge too, or like knowing.
Yeah.
Because some folks may not even know what's out there.
Yeah.
That's where I've run into a lot
Yeah.
of, yeah. And so you guys will work with anybody, just Thurston County or statewide?
Statewide, anybody, and if you're not sure and they're not sure what they need, you can just send them to us, because we work with a bunch of other partners.
Yeah.
And we know the resources out there in sort of the ecosystem in the state, and so if we don't have something that they could access that would be the right fit, then we could probably figure out, where we could send them that would be a better fit.
Alrighty, I got some
I
folks.
just wanted to say shout out to Wesley here because Wesley really initiated that training before we announced the large grants. And so that training really was something that Wesley, you know what I mean, championed and yeah, and that training resulted in a lot of people from Lacey getting those large grants. So those businesses are all thriving as we speak.
And then I see we have Blake here. So how do you guys work with the chambers as well? Because I see, being as a small business here, I see a little bit of disconnect with what some of the chambers do in addition with the EDC. I think that would be a lot. I think that would be a good partnership or I guess however that would be. I think that would be good. I think there's a disconnect maybe within all the different chambers and the EDC. I think that would be a good place to kind of get things
Tighten up.
brought to the attention of small businesses.
And
Yeah.
Blake from the South Sound Glency Chamber is speaking next.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm talking about all the chambers, cause being a Lacey chamber member and then Thurston County chamber member, and then you got the Tumwater chamber members too. Yeah, it'd be good to have kind of that resource plus the EDC all working together. So, yeah, just my observation.
And I think that's a valid observation, and I think that there's definitely some work to be done between those connections.
Yeah.
And the networking, and then also, you know, just going through the process of understanding where the entrepreneurs are, right? And so are the people at the chamber interacting with those entrepreneurs, or is it, you know what I mean? You know, are they, you know what I mean, in the coffee shops? And so, you know, it's tricky because entrepreneurs are squirrely, you know, they don't stay in one place. And so it's, you know, you have to, yeah,
Yes.
it's, you know, finding out how to get the message out has always been challenging, and we continue to evolve that.
Getting your information in the coffee shops.
I wanted to check with the commissioners online if they had any questions.
No.
Was that a no? Okay, thank you. Cool, right,
All right.
great.
Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
You guys
If you
are
want to send me
coming
that survey, I'll
I
make sure it gets on.
definitely,
Yeah.
it's the report.
Yep, yes,
It's
the
on my-
report.
Yep.
Take a couple of your.
Okey doke.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it
Bye,
here.
Sean.
Sure.
I'll leave all of them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just met a lady. that has it again.
Myra?
Myra,
This is
are you jacket?
Almost happy to do check.
It's really
They won't let you back.
No nut allergies. I don't think. Nut allergies.
Oh. Next up is Lacey Chamber of Commerce, Lake Noblet.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much for having me tonight to talk to you about the Lacey South Sound Chamber.
Coming in.
It's an honor to be here. I will hand these down. This is just a little brochure that we hand out. Kind of talks about membership and why be a part of the chamber and what we do and who we are. And so, you know, often I get asked, I'll go to, you know, I'm gonna piggyback on the coffee shop there for a second. I'll go in a brief and say, well, what do you do for a living? I go, I'm the executive director for the Lacey Chamber. And I go, well, what's a chamber? And they kind of glaze over and I say, well, my kind of go-to answer is the Chamber of Commerce is a group of people doing together what we can't do alone. And we work to create a prosperous economy and a vibrant community here in our backyard in the Lacey South Sound area. And we do that a number of ways. But the biggest thing that we do is we are a supporter of business. And all of our members are supporters of businesses. And we have a motto at the Lacey Chamber, and it's think chamber first. So if you are a member of the chamber and you need a service or you need something done, we ask you to open up your membership directory and think chamber first and use a chamber member. 83% of consumers would rather do business with someone who's a chamber member than a non-chamber member. And that's because chamber members are typically connected to their community. And they understand the importance of what it means to give back. At the Lacey Chamber, we have a little over 300 members in our chamber. And we have all sorts of opportunities for members to market their business, whether it's through a networking event, like a luncheon, or some of our other events that we do, like our annual golf tournament or our Winter Fest, or our barbecue festival that we have out at Hunterman Park, where we get over 20,000 people through on a Saturday. We open it up to a number of different food vendors, as well as community vendors and businesses. They have the opportunity to have a booth there for a minimal price if they're a chamber member, and they can actually sell their goods there as well. So that's a great way to get in front of the community, to gain new clients and customers, and let people know who you are. We also offer business after hours. We call it a 501 surge. Every month, we rotate from a different chamber member's business. Members and community members show up to the business at 501 for a networking event, and it's an opportunity to go and support that business. And this is a great opportunity for newer businesses, or even if you're an older business and you're wanting to get people in the door, it's a great opportunity to do that. I always say people can't come in twice if they haven't been in the first time. And this is a great way to invite them in that first time and get them sold on your business and who you are. Some stuff we do for new businesses, we offer ribbon cuttings and grand openings. We bring out the big 3-foot scissors. We partner with the city. West comes out to a lot of those. We invite the city council, local dignitaries, and we just make it a big celebration for companies that are opening their doors here in the city, and we welcome them and thank them for choosing Lacey. We have a monthly lunch forum. Our forum consists of a speaker for about 35 minutes. They talk about kind of what's going on in the area or what's happening. We have a networking opportunity for about the first half an hour, and then our lunch and a program.
And next month is the city managers will be presenting.
Yes, so March is always our state of the city. Rick will be there, which we're very fortunate. We're really looking forward to. And then in April, Chief Almada is going to be speaking about the new police station, which we're really looking forward to as well. So a number of ways to really just kind of help folks stay connected, whether it's through events or networking or sponsorship opportunities. Our sponsorship opportunities are typically a little less expensive than what folks would find in other arenas because they are members and they're member events. So, but yeah, whether it's golf tournament, Winterfest, barbecue, we just had our annual business awards where we honored a number of businesses here in the South Sound area. What I love about business awards is we have on all sides of the spectrum. We start with a company that's 1 to 3 years old, or Entrepreneur of the Year, and we end with our Legacy Award, a company that's been in business in the city of Lacey for 20 years or more, and we honor them. We have a military affairs committee. We have a government affairs committee, an education committee, and then all of our events have their own committees as well. So we just had our gala and masquerade here on Saturday. They had a great committee that met. And the other thing that a lot of folks don't know about us, we have a scholarship fund for students in North Thurston Public Schools, for graduating seniors who are going to go on to college or a trade school and plan on coming back and doing some type of business here within the city of Lacey. It's called the Kidweiler Dolan Scholarship. And we offer that and present those to students every June at our forum. So lots of great things happening at the Lacey Chamber.
Are you out of city government?
No, we're not. We are completely a membership only organization. We work very closely with the city of Lacey. We work closely with the Economic Development Council, but we are our own entity.
So you mentioned you have a lot of different committees. Are they by the members?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, so all of our members make up our different committees.
I see. So like, you know, conventional thinking is business owners are busy. They're busy running their business. They have time to like participate and do these things?
Well, so one of the things is, yes, folks are busy running their business, but the chamber is a great way to get business.
Yeah.
I mean, Makia, you can share that, you know, I know that you've been out to a number of our events, and I think had some pretty good success at Barbecue Fest and our golf tournament.
Yeah.
And so if you have a business, I mean, especially, you know, if you are a company that's selling your services, you need to get in front of your clientele. And the chamber's a great way to get in front of your clientele to be able to do that.
So why would I join Lacey Chamber when I can join something bigger?
Yeah,
Chamber.
so when I've worked at other chambers and every chamber has their own individual feel. I say if you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber. We're all very different. We're all very unique. Part of the reason that I came to work at the Lacey South Sound Chamber was because they are a champion of small business. 80% of our businesses are micro businesses. We're 10 employees or less. These are the folks that really need help growing their business. And these are the folks that truly, I think, believe in community and really give back a lot of what they do through volunteering or however it may be. But they also want to see other members be successful. And by helping other members in the chamber be successful, they see their business be successful as well.
Do you know what kind of participation you have in terms of women and minority-owned businesses?
Yeah, so about half of our businesses are women-owned. And I would say probably 25% of our members are BIPOC businesses.
And how do you grow your existing or maybe finding other smaller businesses? Cause I know you do have your smaller businesses and you guys are truly the small business chamber, but to grow your small business clientele, I guess, what are some of the things that you're doing to do that or to even signify that, hey, you know, this business is minority owned, this business is woman owned?
Yeah.
Is there a way to?
So we do have some opportunities for members to advertise through our different events or through our different programs. We have the opportunity to go in and sponsor a forum. So that's a great way to get in front of, you know, 100 or so business owners and community leaders in a monthly forum. Talk about your business, talk about your company, what it is that sets you apart and makes you different, why people should work with you. Folks have the opportunity to do that at their ribbon cuttings as well, which are all included in membership. They can do it through sponsorship of other events like our golf tournament, where you're having, you know, a couple hundred people come through and visit your home and get to talk to you, and you get time to share with them about who you are and what you do. Winterfest is a great opportunity for that. We put on kind of a high-end holiday bazaar sip, savor, shop event in November at the Lacey Community Center. We do it right before Thanksgiving, and it gives really this is a chance for small businesses and home-based businesses to get in front of customers throughout the South Sound area. We do a lot of advertising that brings people in. And we had, I don't know, 600 people through the doors this year at the community center. And a number of folks that, what do we have? I think 30 different vendors that were able to sell their goods at that. So that was very successful as well.
Are you familiar with the stickers? Some businesses have a safe place sticker.
Yes.
Does the chambers, endorse that or promote that?
Absolutely.
Or
We don't
I just-
promote it. We do definitely endorse it. We do at different times of the year, through our forums, we will have different groups that come in and talk about that to our membership.
Mhm.
So,
I think those are really they're really important to a number of our communities that the business states that it's, you're good here, you're all
Right.
right.
Where do you get those?
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen them in Olympia. I haven't really tuned in.
Yeah, I know that they distribute them online. I think a lot of the times they're given through the city. We also host the event center. That's something I can look into to see if, I'm sure we could be a distribution hub for those.
What about for small business Saturdays? Only ask because with you guys being a small business chamber, in partnership with, I think it's American Express, do you guys ever put any type of, or consider putting any type of event going on for that as a way to get maybe some of your small businesses?
We do. So actually, the Small Business Saturday, after Thanksgiving, we actually work with the city of Lacey and they proclaim it Small Business Saturday. And we share with all of our membership and the community that it is Small Business Saturday. We do it through our social media, and then through our newsletter and share it with our members. And then give them the opportunity to share that information with their customer and client base as well.
Okay, all right. Okay. So this chamber, I could see working for normal brick and mortars, but what about for your non-brick and mortar clientele?
Yeah, no, we have a number of folks that are home-based businesses. In fact, a few years ago, prior to COVID, we had a pretty active home-based business group. So there are a number of folks that don't have a storefront that are members of the chamber. And again, it's folks that are looking, one, to gain customers or gain visibility. I always say if you're wanting to gain visibility, the chamber is a great way to do that. And if you can come to one event a month, whether it's, an after hours or a networking lunch or a forum, or a ribbon cutting, and go and represent your business for an hour, you're going to meet new people. And it just takes that one or two new connections to help grow your business.
Is your monthly event in-person event?
Yes, we have in-person events.
With lunch.
Yeah, with lunch. We have 2 lunches every month, Forum and South Sound Connections. We meet out in Indian Summer. And then our after hours rotates from different chamber members' businesses, and our ribbon cuttings rotate from different members' businesses.
And I attend many of those meetings and I can say, there's this minority-owned women business, they own a auto repair shop. And nowadays, everybody at the chamber knows her, and if there's their car breakdown, they will call her and she will take care of them. So that's how they develop that business relationship and grow in their business, because they have that relationship at the chamber, so therefore they're able to get new business.
Yeah. Yeah, Teresa's great.
Yes.
So you do, there's a due, right? You have a.
Their annual dues. They start at $305, and they're based on your number of full-time employees. So the more employees you have, the higher the dues go. We also have, if monthly breakdowns. So if that's kind of too much for someone to chew at one time, we can break it down monthly and do like $29 a month.
Do you offer first few meetings for free or anything?
No, so like
Just
our
check it
ribbon
out.
cuttings, and our business after hours, those are free to attend. Our South Sound Connections, you pay for the price of your lunch, and that's it. We don't make any money on. Same thing with Forum, is you just cover the cost of your lunch. We don't make any money on our forums either. And you can always get more information. You can go to LaceySSChamber.com. We've got a great events page. I'll share with you all our different things that we have coming up. But feel free to check that out. You can also learn more about our ambassadors and our board of directors, our membership directory, and and see who's a member of the chamber.
So the business from other city can join you?
Oh, absolutely. So we have, we encompass most of the South Sound, so we have businesses in DuPont, Tumwater, Olympia, Yelm, so, Lakewood.
Okay.
I like the cover too.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Shannon, thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Great to
you
see
very
you.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Really getting the full meal deal today, aren't we?
I promised you all that we'd bring in everybody.
I'll
who's
be
involved
sending my
in economic
barbecue
development.
festival
Here we are.
application. I have it printed out and everything.
Right, now we got the economic development update.
So, Chair, if I could, for just a second while we're working on some of the audio over here, I do
Yeah.
want to just take a moment to introduce our new Community Economic and Development Director. This is Vanessa Dolby, and Vanessa comes from the city of Renton, and we're really excited that she's on board. So Vanessa, if you could provide the commission just a little bit about yourself.
Sure, sure. And thank you for the introduction and thanks for the opportunity to be here this evening and get to meet you all in person and some of you virtually. So as Shannon mentioned, yes, I come from the city of Renton. Prior to that, going way back in my history, I actually grew up here in technically the city of Olympia, but I felt like the Tri-City area was really my stomping ground. So this is a return home for me, not a, first adventure. And so it's really exciting to be back a part of the community where my roots are. So just by way of going way, way back, prior to Renton, I did work for Grant County on the other side of the mountains. And I spent the majority of my career at the city of Renton. And just for this group, I think something that might be notable, and I'm excited to bring my experience to this community, is that the city of Renton is and has a long time been a majority minority city. In the last data set, we had a growth rate of 99.9%. And yes, we double checked the data of minority people in that community. So from that standpoint, really worked hard over the last decade plus in the city of Renton to engage with our community on various levels. And I look forward to those opportunities here in Lacey. And I'm really excited to work with this community and this group as we advance a lot of policies that come through the Community and Economic Development Department. So nice to meet you all and thanks for having me this evening.
Welcome back.
Leslie's up.
Good evening. My name is Wesley Nguyen, the staff at the city here. And thank you very much for inviting me. For the next couple of minutes, we'll be talking about economic development at the city of Lacey and some of the initiative we'll be doing and have been doing. So the picture to the right of the slide is the Lacey work plan that was adopted by the Lacey Council back in September 15, 2022. And it covers the work for 2022 all the way up to 2024. In this document, there are 8 priorities, and 2 of it, which are these 2 here, directly associated with economic development. And this is sort of my North Star. This is what I looked at. This is how I do my work. This is direction from the council. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, this is on our website, so take a look at that. There's a lot of good information, good nuggets to be discovered, so I recommend if you haven't, take a look at that document. Just to give you a little bit glance of the economic in Lacey. I know our assistant city manager, Shannon, had given you some data back that was dated back in 2017. So this data is more current. This is 2021 data. We in 2020, we hired a consultant to do some economic development work, and this is coming out of the report. So these 8 sectors are highest sector. Retail and wholesale warehouse are first and second in terms of employment for our city. And together, there are about 23,470 jobs in our city. And then on January 31st, 2024, I ran a report from the Department of Revenue, which gave us all of the business that are licensed in our cities. And after doing some filtering, there are about 1,470 business in Lacey. And that is non-home-based businesses. So in total, if you look at all the sectors, there are 23,470 jobs through these sectors. So if you were to divide that number by 1,470, on average, there's about 16 employees per business. And the other thing I wanted to highlight here in this graph is that the Department of Revenue does not collect demographic data. And so I'm unable to provide information on whether the business is owned by minority or women or Black. So I just want to highlight that for you. So here are some of our strategic initiatives and priority for what I'm working on. Some of these are multi-years and multi-partnership. The first one is a comprehensive plan update. There are several chapters and parts that city staffs are working on. I'm working on the economic development strategies and element, drafting that report, and then we'll be putting out some outreach campaign for stakeholder engagement in the near future regarding our updates. The next item, comprehensive economic development strategy, or the SED. This is a new thing that was developed by Thurston County, Pacific, Grace Harbor, and Mason. So these 4 counties together come together and develop this strategy called the SED. And they submitted to the federal government for approval. And it got approved earlier, or actually late last year. So with that approval and being that we are now a district, anybody in that jurisdiction, those 4 counties, could apply for federal loan, federal grants that to support underserved and distressed community within their jurisdiction. So that's why we're part of that collaboration. And I want to mention the picture on the right is the Lacey Makerspace. So this is some of their short course training. This is one of their advertisement. Lacey Makerspace have become a community asset. It started about 10 years ago even. And it was an idea that became a thing in 2019 when it opened its door in St. Martin campus here. Within the last 5 years of its opening, it secured over $3 million for operation, equipment, and expansion. And the city of Lacey is instrumental. It's the engine, the heart, and the pocketbook for this project. It make incredible investment into this project. And then, do you guys know where is Midtown?
Right here.
Correct,
Yeah.
here, right. So,
I always thought of it as Midtown.
We're not gonna make you draw.
so before COVID, there were, the city have hired a consultant to look at rebranding what used to be called the Woodland Square, the Woodland Square. And now it has been, and we are rebranding that to call it the Midtown Innovation District, is what we call that. And this year, I'm working on a strategy with Blake to look at how we could strategize and galvanize some of tenants, some of the business that are in that community, some of the property owners, some of the nonprofit, and develop sort of a alliance, or like a downtown alliance type thing where bring them in to start talking about what do they want in these communities. And so that's something we are just starting out there. like I mentioned, economic development is not a thing that we do alone as a city. We work with Blake, we work with Sean, we work with Myra, on a lot of different things. And these bullet point under strategic partnerships are the things that we are working on right now. And we have different partners we are negotiating and conversation with that. It's not gonna be done overnight. It's an ongoing conversations and hopefully, like the makerspace, it might take 10 years. I'm hoping it lasts because I don't like to take 10 years on things. So hopefully we can make it happen sooner than 10 years.
It's being renovated now, right?
It's done. Renovation is
It's
done.
done.
Yeah, for
Oh,
the
the
makerspace.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know that.
Expanded it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the public opening, like Sean mentioned earlier, so I believe a week from now.
Yeah, March 27 is the ribbon cutting, but it's already finished and it's open.
Nice.
So they had an opening event last week.
What is your commercial kitchen space and co-packing facility?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I heard somebody talking about that.
I've been looking at that. Matter of fact, I am moving, like in the
Yeah.
middle of moving, so
This is all about you.
I'll be looking for a place.
So next are a couple of initiative I want to highlight that are related to BIPOC and diverse communities. I think last year we shared with you a flyers about the BIPOC business training, and we asked you guys to share with your communities and get some participants to come and participate. So this is the result of 2 years of training with Sean at Thurston EDC doing the training. So these are the data, but I just wanted to share a little about Daniel, which is the gentleman in the white T-shirt here. This is the gentleman that Myra was talking about earlier. So this is Daniel. He's from Paraguay. Him and his wife opened the VBNC therapy in 2021. It's right off of Yam Highway, if you want to go check them out. He participated in the BIPOC business training in 2022. Sean and Myra and the team helped them put together a business plan, submit an application for the Thurston Target Zone grant and receive 100,000 from that initiative. What's cool about Daniel is that he himself have a blind disorder. And so and this is one of why he wanted to open up a therapy to help folks similar to him that have physical challenge. They are bilingual and support all members of our community. So I just want to share a little bit about him. And as for outreach to our BIPOC business community, staff are engaged with partner BIPOC business representative. For example, Thurston EDC have Myra, so I work with Myra on a variety of different topics and ideas. Also, the Thurston Chamber have hired Makita to do the BIPOC initiative, and she managed the roundtable discussion. So with the roundtable discussion is monthly discussion that started with Makita having an idea of wanting to form a small group. And now the chambers have hired somebody to continue that legacy. They have monthly meeting, about 20 different participants. Many of them are business owners. Some jurisdiction like myself will show up. And then we'll just hear stories and provide resources to people.
And that's two different Makita. So there's me, Makita, who
Yeah.
founded it, and Marquita, who runs.
Yeah, sorry, not her, Marquita Hines.
Yeah.
So this is another, so these are two other initiative I wanted to share as well. That is related not only to BIPOC business, but also DEI. The Lacey food truck started in 2021, and now it's in its 4th year. There's a Mexican food, a Jamaican food, a boba drinks, a healthy food, a Filipino food, and a southern barbecue food there. Recently, the State Economic Development Association have selected this project as this year Economic Development Award for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
But they're not in
State.
Lacey, they're in
Yeah.
Olympia, are they?
No, it's Lacey.
They're right on the,
I thought
Yeah.
they're on the Lacey Pacific.
Lacey Pacific,
Yeah,
Where the,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, it's in the Depot District.
Sounds like we're gonna need to take a commission on equity field trip.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I've been
You
there, I've
should
been a
go.
vendor there, so, yeah.
no, that's.
and not only that, you know, we're very proud of this project, but other cities are copying our model. Sumner have called me and asked me about how they did, it, how we did it, and then I heard from one of the vendor that Des Moines cities also trying to duplicate our initiative. The other thing, the bottom picture is the Lacey Market event. And it's on the gravel a lot right next to the food trucks. We have bi-monthly market events, one on the evening and one in the afternoon to support our communities. On average, there's about 25 vendors that would participate in that market, including your own, Makeda Hart. She goes there and pitch her Sergeant Hart barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And we love that. So she's very familiar with that market as well. So yeah, it's a great opportunity not only for vendors to be able to sell their product, but also for community members to come out, see the different events and enjoy the entertainment, but also have an opportunity to mingle and meet their neighbors, you know. So making a place where people can share and have food and enjoy a little bit of.
And there's a little park right there.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I kind of wanted to rent out the depot.
Yeah.
When the weather gets a little nicer for the All Abilities meeting.
Yeah, it's available. You can rent that through the park. And I can, you know, we can definitely hook you up for that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, or this thing, is that we have a very active welcome program that I coordinate with the mayor, where we send out a letter to new business that received the Lacey business license. So last year, and we do this monthly, but last year in 2023, we had about 126 new business in Lacey that are non-home based. So I usually try to send these letters to non-home based businesses. As you can see from the picture, we also attend business opening event, like Blake was saying. The picture in the middle, that is Aloha Cafe. She started as a food truck at the depot, and now she have her own cafe in down in Corporate Square, near Lowe's. But and then I just wanted to share the picture on the right is an opening of J Nail Spa on the new Hogan Bay Town Center. The owners are immigrant, and this is their first business. They wanted to open on November 11, 2023. Why? Because in Asian culture, opening an event is a lucky day for them. So they're very careful about those particular days. But they call me and go, "Hey, Wesley, I need a certificate of occupancy in order for me to open up my business." And so they were behind on schedule. So I work with our inspector here at the our department, make sure that they can schedule, come out and inspect the renovation so that he can get his certificate of occupancy so that he can open his business on time. And this is just an example of knowing our customers, knowing our clients and supporting them any way we can. So he was able to open on November 11 as he wanted to. And then just a little bit more information regarding business and business recruitment and retention. Shannon wanted me to mention a little about that. we work with potential business by providing various information that they may want. Some business cards and want to know about zoning, permitting, signage, planning process, how to get approval, how long does it take? An example is when Amazon wanted to open a warehouse in Northeast Lacey, their business development team called me, and I was like three months into my job, so they're like, I need to know information about transportation, road, your population, are they educated, can they work in my warehouse? So I provide all that information to them. So once they decided that, okay, we're gonna build a warehouse in Lacey, I then transfer my contact to our planning folks. Our planning folks and our building folks work with them and make sure that construction contractors need all the things they need, permits and everything. And then before they open, the corporate HR called me and wanted me to help them with recruitment. So I work with WorkSource, get people set up interview with them. And so that's one of the way in which we work with business to get them to come to Lacey. Yeah, so that's a little bit about my work and what we do here at the City of Lacey on economic development. So, yeah, so any questions, please let me know.
Oh, great.
Yeah, he's
Impressive.
everywhere. I see him
Lot of
everywhere.
Mhm.
Under pond, right,
Yeah.
to stay float?
I'm a good swimmer.
Nice.
So what was this?
So this is, the deputy mayor and the mayor attended this, opening of the World Relief Immigration Resettlement Office in Olympia. So again, supporting minority and BIPOC community. I asked, we all attended this event over at the Olympia, just supporting them. I have been working with World Relief, who is the assigned agency to resettle Afghans and Ukrainian immigrants and refugees here in Thurston County. So one of the things that they have struggled with is affordable housing and jobs. So before they came in, I worked with them to give them a lot of information about what type of job, what skill sets people are looking for. And then, a lot of them don't drive, so they want to know what is the bus route to get to the jobs and those sort of things. So I've been working with them as well on these things. Mhm.
Great. Everything just like fits together and,
Yeah.
that's so supportive. I'm not a business person, but if I was, I would be
I
happy.
Please come and I'll help you.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of folks that can help you as well.
Oh, I'll figure out.
I need some help.
I do too.
I don't know, you've been doing great at
No,
the
I need
state.
some
So is
Not my
it
own
just you doing all of that, or now the two of you together, I'm assuming?
This is a team effort, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people in the city that economic development is just not me. I mean, even our city manager's involved. So everybody's involved. Our finance folks is involved, because that's our revenue.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I could even go so far as saying you're all involved in terms of that connection between the connection you help us make between maybe people you might know in the community that need support or need help or need uplift and in terms of their success. So together we can achieve a lot more, right?
But just only for non-home base businesses at this.
No, we support home
Yeah.
base too.
Okay.
We support home base. For example, the market event, a lot of these folks are home-based business
Yeah.
that are vendors that coming out here.
Yeah.
They make earrings, they make bracelets, they make candles.
Yeah.
We invite them, they register, and then they come and have a booth and do these market events.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I like that.
So you're right. I mean, I brought some people from Bellevue and different cities to check out our makerspace, and
Yeah.
it's one of the kind in Washington State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
really unique opportunity.
We are definitely the largest in Washington State.
Mhm.
In terms of that space. We should have them do a tour.
We'll add it to the field trip list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should do a bus tour for the equity commission.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly something we can chat about.
Stop at
later
the
on.
trucks, yeah.
Yeah.
I can be your narrator. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It was really nice to meet you all. And another member of our team is up next. So just so you know, she's also in the same department and she will hand it off.
So before we do transition, I just want to thank everybody for coming, and I know we had some members leave, but you know, everybody from the EDC to the South Sound Chamber, to our own Community Economic Development Department, and we also had a presentation last month from the state, so I want to thank you, Commissioner Sauer, for doing that as well. And just to kind of, you know, frame this was something, you know, the Commission on Equity had asked, hey, we really want to hear what's going on, you know, in the business community here in the city of Lacey and Thurston County. And so now presentations, is there other information that you all are looking for that we can help get in front of this body?
Yeah, I mean,
Just
great.
that summary
Yeah, yeah.
of,
yeah.
you know, you all are reaching out, and then if you get any feedback you wanna bring back here about how people are feeling about their businesses or starting their.
Well, I can tell you, commissioners, you will see probably everybody in this room moving forward a lot more frequently. I know Wesley mentioned the comprehensive plan and us really starting that process. And so we will be working hand in hand with community and economic development in that process and with the planning commission.
And that starts in earnest run it, council.
Yep.
We'll be rolling stuff out. I'm sure we'll see you a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet you all.
Jennifer, are you zooming sharing, or would you like me to pull up your presentation up here?
You wouldn't mind pulling it
Okay,
up.
I can absolutely do that.
apologize For earlier, I was trying to figure out, I ended up using the note field on the PowerPoint, so like that, but that's what I want you guys to be able to see. So I'm just gonna kind of drive two different machines here, if you guys don't mind having just a little patience with me. I appreciate
Oh, no, it's all good.
it. And thank you for your help as well. Thank you. Okay, and a little bit of water.
That's a lot of good water.
Toast.
Yes, it's a lot of water. You're right. It's not really that
It's like
convenient.
this guy.
Yeah,
Number two.
it's not really all that convenient. Well, thank you so much for having me. As was mentioned, my name is Jennifer Adams. I'm one of the 27 Jennifers here at the city of Lacey.
Oh,
I
wow.
like to
27?
joke about that.
Yeah.
There is a song though with that
Oh,
name, so we do reference that occasionally, but there are a few. I just a quick blurb about me. I joined the city of Lacey last May, May 1st, I believe, came up from Cowlitz County where I was working in land use planning there at the county level. Really excited to jump into housing, so I came on board as the housing coordinator here at Lacey, which was a new position for the city. So we've all feel like we've got a lot of new, really great stuff to really help get out to the community. So we've got a lot of new projects to work on and so forth. And then just as far as me, that's my life right now, working. I decided to go back to school, so working on almost beginning my thesis work for my master's degree. So looking forward to probably pursuing ideas in housing for that. So really happy to be here tonight to give you guys a little bit of information about some things that are coming up parallel to and in conjunction with the comprehensive plan update that you just heard a little bit about this evening as well. I did something just slightly different, so I wanted to ask if I have been listening, and I can tell this is a really thoughtful group in terms of great questions that you bring forward. And I love the interactive style. Would anybody have an objection this evening for this if I were to run through the presentation and then do questions at the end? Would that be okay? Okay, I appreciate that a lot just because I've got a lot of slides for you. So I'm gonna get going. I just a little bit different style on this. So I promise we'll get to a story and we'll get there. And then Shannon, I'm sorry, does this advance just by clicking?
It does, and if it doesn't do it, you just gotta go down to the bottom left corner and advance it, but I think it should work. You just might need to
Can
press
we
it
get a little
twice.
practice run real
Yep.
quick?
There you go.
Okay, So, okay, great. We covered Mace. So, so the topic this evening, is middle housing. And if you don't know what that is, that's okay. I really hope in a few minutes here, you'll have a little bit of a better understanding. And then we'll have a more thorough chance to discuss the concept as well at the end. So thank you again for your patience. All right. So this evening, again, here we are taking an opportunity to present some information about middle housing, accessory dwelling units, and upcoming additions and amendments required of our jurisdiction and really required of all jurisdictions who plan under the Growth Management Act. Again, with a lot of slides, I'm going to move through fairly quickly, and then at the end during questions, I think I have some for you guys as well. So I'm looking forward to that piece of it. And let me advance mine. I apologize here, trying to remember to do the two here at one time. So it's important to establish an understanding of our current housing trends from a national, a state, and a local perspective. Housing inequity is a national issue, and in fact, in a 2019 study published by the Federal Reserve Board, the average wealth of white households far exceeded that of Black households. And before we get too far ahead, I just a little FYI, I'm gonna try to give you a few definitions here and there, okay, that we can sort of work with. So it's helpful to be familiar with the area median income when we're talking about housing statistics. And so we can look at this fairly simple definition. The area median income is calculated by taking the median income of all households in a designated geographical area. And the term median income signifies that half of the households in the area earn more than that amount and half then would use less. And so that is how we will perceive that for this evening. All right. Pardon me. So in fact, data published by the US Census Bureau also in 2019 indicated that even at 150% of the area median income, less than 50% of the non-Hispanic, Black or African Americans, Hispanic, Latino, and non-Hispanic Asian households are able to achieve home ownership compared to 73% of non-Hispanic white households. I do want to acknowledge here that in this slide, this graph did not include our Indigenous populations. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
Commissioner, just to jump in really quickly, I will be sending out all of the slide presentations from today, so.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So in Washington state, this wealth gap continues to grow and significantly among our BIPOC communities, making home ownership harder to attain. The map here estimates how many housing units would need to be purchased among BIPOC communities in order to match the home ownership percentage rate of non-Hispanic whites. So where that star is there, Thurston County, indicates that we would be, an estimated 2,866 homes. And then there's some comparisons here. So hopefully, again, when you get these, you'll have a little more time to digest if you're interested in looking a little bit closer at that. Sorry. Okay, so Washington State has analyzed and projected statewide needs for new housing units, and the verdict is in. So Washington needs 1.1 million new homes by 2045. Notice that more housing is needed at all income brackets, but with the deepest need expressed at the 125% or and above AMI. And then quickly, let's grab another definition here of the urban growth area. And so the urban growth area refers to a designated region. It's often outside the boundaries of a city and is often earmarked for planned and controlled urban development and expansion in the future, and may undergo the process of annexation to incorporate into the city limits. And so what do these numbers of needing 1.1 million new housing units mean for Lacey? So Thurston County Planning Commission has made it very convenient for us to access housing data that shows us that the population for Lacey is expected to increase by 18,000 people by the year 2045. Though growth is anticipated in the city limits, notice here that the most population increases are projected there again in that urban growth area of Lacey. And to meet the state's projections, Lacey will aim toward our target of producing 12,180 new homes by year 2045, with again, those majorities in the UGA. Sorry, this is challenging my,
Why don't I help you out? I'll watch
Oh,
over your
are
shoulder
you
and
sure?
I can advance.
Okay,
Yes.
you are really wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, so are we on the 2023? Yes, we are. According to the US Census Bureau for 2023, nearly 43% of Lacey residents are renters. Less than our neighbors in Olympia, but still, this represents a large segment of our population. So are people choosing to rent? Yes, many people choose renting for a variety of lifestyle and financial reasons, but many people don't have a choice because homeownership may be out of reach. Research shows that there are more single people, less children being born, and a growing senior population. In fact, the bar graph on the right here highlights some national data that suggests a steady increase in the older adult population in the United States. So you can see that from 2016 to the next group of the next 5 years, 2020, there was an increase of 5 million older adults. And then by 2030, that number is projected to reach a 17 million increase. So when we think about Lacey, one question that comes to mind is, does Lacey have enough housing types and enough housing to accommodate these types of changing demographics? And so according to a statewide survey administered by the Department of Commerce, nearly 80% of respondents not only see a need for more housing options in their communities, but also express that prices are just too high and more reasonably priced homes are very much needed. And again, we look to local conditions for more information in order to identify the gaps and the needs that we have. So TRPC again provides us with that great data. And reflects here that nearly 32% of households in Thurston County were reported as house burdened, which means spending more than 30% of their income on housing costs. And then an additional 14% were considered severely cost burdened. So are these statistics expected to improve? Well, looking at trends as expressed in the Housing Affordability Index here, we can gather that Thurston County, along with neighboring counties, is becoming more and more unaffordable. So as you look at this graph, the gray area on the graph indicates the zone in which housing is deemed unaffordable or significantly disproportionate to average incomes in the area. So right where that arrow is there, you can see that all of our counties nearby are all trending toward and in that unaffordable bracket per this index. And so another definition to be aware of, you are likely very familiar with the Growth Management Act. Just as a refresher though, this is a very pivotal piece of legislation in Washington State that was rolled out in 1990 with the primary goal of guiding and managing growth in our state. And I believe there are 77 counties and cities here in Washington that fully plan under the growth management, and Lacey is one of those. And so the Growth Management Act expresses that we must ensure housing for all economic segments of the population. And it further suggests that local government should promote residential zones that accommodate varied densities and housing types. And the county agrees with this charge, and it includes in their countywide planning policies, I think Shannon, suggestions and commitments to increase housing choices for all ranges of lifestyles, incomes, and abilities, and explore ways to reduce housing costs. In addition, a commitment is made to regularly examine policy in order to continue identifying barriers for middle housing and affordable housing development. And then finally, it's also critical to look at our local, what are we saying locally? And so Lacey looks to its own guiding principles in such documents as the 2021 Housing Action Plan in order to identify the community's express goals, to help increase the supply of permanent housing options, both at market rate, and then also we'll need housing at the affordable rate as well. We also want to aim to increase housing variety and make access to housing easier wherever possible. So with current and future housing needs that we've been talking about and the current housing landscape in our communities, can we envision housing options that offer more variety and accommodate more income levels in residential neighborhoods? Excuse me, thank you. Well, decades ago, Washington didn't do such a bad job of delivering middle housing varieties, particularly in more densely populated urban areas. I love this was, I think you could get these out of a Sears and Roebuck's catalog, if I remember. Yeah. Now we see tiny homes kind of like that, don't we?
Units for 3,000.
Yes. So though these buildings here look to be like single-family dwellings, they each contain multiple units. And so again, we come back to that question in earnest. Can we bring a concept back like this here to Lacey to really align with our current housing landscape as well as our own community visions? So Commerce offers us many great examples. They offered us these photos taken kind of in different cities throughout our state. And these are all a variety of different concepts that are deemed and fit the definition of middle housing varieties. So it's good to know that there are many ways that we can creatively look at middle housing. That said, however, we can't be too creative because of the fact that there are so many varieties of different types. The state has really narrowed down a definition for us to work within. And so therefore, middle housing for us, for the city of Lacey, is going to mean buildings that are compatible in scale, form, and character with single-family houses and contain 2 or more attached, stacked, or clustered homes that include duplexes through sixplexes, so duplexes, 3, 4, 5, and 6, townhomes, stacked flats, courtyard apartments, and cottage housing. So where are we going to find space to produce and provide nearly 12,000 new housing units in the next 20 years? Well, Lacey still has some opportunity within the city limits and in the UGA to produce middle housing varieties, including, again, the accessory dwelling units, which we're going to get more in depth with in just a moment, especially in areas that are low and moderate density residential zones. So on this map here, for example, this is kind of a heat map. So in areas that are yellow and sort of the light green area and the light orange, those are going to be areas that might be really great for this sort of infill concept of adding more housing. And so with middle housing representing such a broad spectrum of types and options, one theory is that middle housing may be integrated nicely into established neighborhoods with other residential housing. The graphic here indicates for us varying types of middle housing, and you can see here they are also at varying scales. And depending on other development considerations, it may be possible for middle housing types to provide enhanced characteristics such as open space areas, walkable spaces, connecting spaces, and then in addition, just providing a wide range of housing options, sizes, and varieties. Middle housing may be referred to as being middle in 2 ways. Middle housing varieties are considered to offer sizes that fall between large apartment buildings and single-family homes. In addition, housing analysts rely on a general market concept that more housing will naturally lead to easier housing attainability. And finding that middle housing sweet spot. This is going to be determined by a number of factors, but should really always aim to include feasibility, attainability, and livability in order to have the best outcome that we would be looking for. We as in our community. So it's critical to distinguish that middle housing is not synonymous with affordable housing. Affordable housing by definition is when, there again, no more than 30% of someone's monthly income is spent on housing costs, including utilities. So there's no direct requirement with middle housing that it must also be affordable housing. However, there will be some situations such as increased density where in return, affordable units will be expected to be produced. And so claims about middle housing suggest that the more of it, will increase our housing supply, access and options, increase local home ownership opportunities, strengthen our local economy, and encourage building smaller footprints. Middle housing types may also be what we need to help meet the needs of our growing senior population and other retirees, people that desire to house share, that's very popular anymore, young couples, and maybe even small families, just as examples. So why is Lacey addressing middle housing? There's a few pieces of new legislation that not only support, but that now mandate more provisions for middle housing and expansion of those ADUs. House Bill 1110 specific to middle housing, and then House Bill 1337 specific to accessory dwelling units, both require new regulations that we must implement as a jurisdiction. And both these House bills align with the narrative that more housing options at higher densities will present a pathway towards housing attainability for more people in our community. Focus will largely address reducing barriers to these forms of development. And the inclusion of middle housing varieties may help our community respond appropriately to a growing and changing demographic, as we discussed, attainable and sustainable development, and help our local economy, both short and long-term benefits as well. But Lacey is not necessarily a stranger to middle housing strategies and implementation, and here's why. In fact, current policy in Lacey indicates that Lacey has already established some framework for middle housing with a few main actions that have been very instrumental for us. For example, we've had a fairly recent increase in low-density residential zones. Up to 6 units per acre are now allowed. The allowance of duplexes and triplexes in zones predominantly for residential housing is already reflected in our building code and land use code. And then our accessory dwelling unit allowances that have also increased opportunity for landowners to, provide another living unit. And then a couple more definitions, and for next time, I'll get to this one sooner, but the accessory dwelling unit, just as a refresher, according to the language we have in our code, represents a separate living unit integrated within a single family dwelling or one located as a detached accessory dwelling located on the same lot as a single family dwelling. And it's always subordinate to the main house. So for example, our correct, yes, correct. And today's sort of well-accepted term is the accessory dwelling unit or ADU, but very much synonymous with.
Yeah, I was
with
like,
that term.
question mark, what is ADU?
Yes,
Yeah, that's what
yes.
I was thinking, got it.
Thank you. And then density, as a refresher, is the permissible number of dwelling units that may be developed on a specific amount of land area. So if, for example, if you have a multifamily, complex with 10 units, and you have a duplex with 2 units, the 10 unit yields a higher density than the duplex. But if you had a bunch of duplexes in this occupying the same amount of land, so what you're really looking at is how many persons, how many units can be within a certain area, and that's part of how we look at density. Okay. And then just wanted to show you guys a local example. What's cool about this is that it was built back in 2013. So there again, we've kind of been talking some middle housing strategies for at least a decade now. Here, the developer was really able to accomplish building 3 units on just a quarter acre of a lot, and really did a nice job of integrating this and two others actually there, kind of nice and seamlessly into a neighborhood that was older and already established here in Lacey. And so that's an excellent example of middle housing serving a community. And then,
Close to Panorama.
yes, you're correct. Yes. And as we've established there, again, those accessory dwelling units can continue to help Lacey achieve more housing options and some more density. Lacey's paved the way and gained recognition for our pre-approved ADU designs that serve as options for people looking to streamline the permitting process. And will middle housing regulations make single-family homes illegal? And the answer to that is no. And I think that that's really important for us to know. And then in addition, the revised Code of Washington, or the RCW, reminds jurisdictions that they shall not require through development regulations any standards for middle housing that are more restrictive than those that are required for single-family homes. So basically in Lacey, our middle housing objective, long-term objectives is going to be to draft and adopt a citywide middle housing ordinance. We do have a deadline for that. We are targeting that to be June 30th of 2025. The slight caveat to that is we may have an additional 6 months with some new legislation that's come out, so more to come on that. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the new regulations. You may have forgot, or you may have thought that I'd never get there. But let's do this. So one critical change is the increase in density allowances for middle housing and for ADUs. With Lacey, we're a tier 2 city. This is based on population. Our population hovers around 53,000 in the city.
It's around 59 now.
59, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, around 59. So, so that puts us in this tier 2 category for middle housing regulations. And so the new authorized density is going to be 2 units on all lots that are zoned predominantly for residential use. You can also do 4 units per lot if you deed one of those units or through the instrument of a deed at the affordable rate for 50 years, 50 years. So that's where that exchange or incentive will come into play. So we can offer a bit of a higher density to a developer in exchange for one of those units hitting that target of the affordable level. And then of equal importance is the introduction and allowance of unit lot subdivisions. So slightly similar to a condo model, the unit lot subdivision is going to enable landowners and developers to split each unit where it connects with a solid wall. This is going to provide the ability to independently sell each unit with the land underneath, or simply rent it out as well. So both will be viable options. This is also going to allow another avenue of home, or a new avenue of home ownership, there again at a smaller scale. Yeah, so this is gonna be new, and some exciting stuff coming up with that, or hopefully. New regulations for ADUs require that all lots zoned for residential use in the UGA that we talked about will be allowed at least 2 ADUs per lot. Something very important here is that when a unit lot subdivision is implemented, there is no longer going to be a requirement that the owner of the parent or the main parcel lives in any of the units on the property. And that applies to the middle housing as well. So essentially, now this can be done with, say, an owner that maybe lives out of state or something like that. So this is going to open up some opportunities for opening up more housing, and then revenue streams as well for owners. So. And then we'll just grab this definition here really quickly of development regulations, which refer to a set of rules, standards, and requirements established by local governments to govern and guide the physical development of land within their jurisdictions. And then quickly, we'll also barely touch upon floor area ratio, that makes my head spin a little bit because it's a bunch of numbers. But floor area ratio.
Math at 7:30.
Yeah, exactly. And I like this definition better. I apologize, but the relationship of the total usable floor area of a building relative to the total area of the lot that the building is going on. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at with floor area ratio. And so, are there any local decisions that Lacey can make for this middle housing process that I'm here talking to you about tonight? And for the ADU policies? And the answer for that is yes. We are going to have some decisions outside of those that are mandated for us to make as a community. Some of those will be to determine the types. If you remember, we talked about 9 different types of middle housing that have been defined for us. Our city will need to adopt 6 of the 9. Now, we've already adopted at least 4 of those, so we'll have some decisions to make there. We'll want to revisit floor area ratio to determine if that's a method we want to continue using or if there are consequences to doing that. So we'll be investigating that. We'll be working with definitions and determine certain definitions that will meet our local context and our local codes. And then objective development regulations. So that's why we did a quick refresher on those. So those would encompass things such as parking requirements, setbacks on your property. So all of those things you can think of when you come in to build a house, those are going to kind of fall into that bucket of development regulations where we're going to have some decisions to make. This process is going to be phased approach with public engagement. We are just at the beginning. In fact, this is just my second time getting out and talking to a group. And so again, thank you for having me here. And then this will take us through, this is just a very, very high level view here. But again, that end goal is going to be to adopt a citywide middle housing ordinance by the end of all of the work to be done. And Lacey will conduct a public engagement plan that adheres to city and community values and reflects our approach or an approach that we feel really needs to be in line with being meaningful, providing meaningful opportunities, accountable, an inclusive process, transparency. We want to make sure that we have a realistic process and that we're looking, for areas of constraint, working with timelines, and then we also want to be outcome oriented. So while also staying in alignment with our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, to ensure engagement in the decision-making process and assist the successful implementation of all of these new regulations that we need to learn about and embrace. So with all sites zoned for middle housing, I have a typo, I'm sorry. Will all sites zoned for middle housing be developed or redeveloped as middle housing? And the answer there is no. Because certain conditions would need to be met in order for this to actually become a reality. And so the site must meet things such as be physically and financially feasible. Builders should be familiar with their building site. There should be sufficient demand. So again, a lot of factors will play into whether or not, a middle housing project is going to be an effective project for a given area. And we're almost done. You guys have been amazing. Middle housing does not. It's important for us to remember that there's a few things that middle housing does not do. Again, it does not threaten the existence or the new construction of single family homes. So nothing there will change. It does not prohibit the city from applying design standards that we talked about for middle housing. And middle housing alone does not solve all of the housing challenges that we are facing, but we do hope that it can be one avenue towards assisting the crisis. So some conversation just to open it up this evening. These were a few of the questions that Shannon and I talked about, although I probably didn't word them the way that you might. So please jump in with anything that comes to mind for you. And then certainly we can open it up to questions you may have. I'll just read these real quickly. And if you have thoughts, wonderful. Do you feel that expanding housing options in more areas of our community will effectively support diversity, equity, and inclusion? Question 2, if a primary objective of middle housing expansion is indeed to make homeownership more attainable for more people at more income levels, where might we have some opportunities to continue to support and encourage those possibilities? And then question 3, do you have any suggestions for the city regarding the public involvement process for our middle housing initiative? So those are things that, no rush this evening. I know that we've kept you here a long time. I'd be happy to connect with any and all of you, outside of the meeting, if you'd like to digest this a little bit and maybe get together or send me some of your thoughts. It would be really meaningful for our process. But also open it up to make sure that you have an opportunity this evening as well, so.
Well, I'm worried that we are not gonna have affordable housing, that all the middles. The only place I saw affordable was if we had 4, if you want 4 units on something, one of them had to be affordable. I mean, that's affordable. I mean, that isn't even, how do we house our low income people? This is how do we afford our middle people. So if, the ownership of houses in BIPOC families is low, if we can't even get to the affordable range, how are we gonna move that, on that dial?
Move that needle. I mean, this is where these conversations need to occur because there is overlap. Again, when we come back to those definitions, because of the overlap, we're talking affordable housing and we're talking middle housing and let's take, for example, if the fourplex example. So I'm a developer, I get permitted through the city of fourplex. Now in exchange, I'm going to sign a deed on the 4th unit that's going to stay at the affordable rate for 50 years. We have to remember that affordable rate needs to serve those lower AMI groups. Now, it certainly wouldn't meet probably the severe groups. Sorry, I don't have the numbers in front of me. In parallel or in a separate universe, but all sort of in the same work of housing the same pot, we also are working on efforts that target just affordable housing, kind of in a different looking for partnerships to produce affordable housing and that kind of thing. So I just wanna briefly highlight that because to your point, it's all critical.
Jennifer, can I
Yes,
add
please.
a few things on that? I think too, Vice Chair Clay, part of the presentation was just to show too that middle housing doesn't always necessarily mean affordable housing.
Yeah,
But there certainly could be affordable housing built within middle housing as well. I think you pulled the example of the bonus density, but there could certainly be other, units that would focus primarily just on a ratio of, 4 units of affordable housing rather than, 1 unit of affordable housing. But I think,
how can the city encourage that?
Yeah.
That's.
yeah, and there are multiple types of programs, and we can bring CED back out here to talk about like the multifamily tax exemption as a program as one example. But I think like Jennifer already highlighted, we know that this isn't gonna be the panacea, right? There's not just one thing that will fix this. But we do know that we need a number of units at all levels of AMI, and so this is an effort that can help with that. In addition to other items, like partnerships like Jennifer mentioned,
Yeah.
and finding other solutions to add additional affordable housing.
Yeah, because the affordable housing will very much so really rely on having strong partnerships. So I can't wait to come back and talk about that once, we have a few things that are underway.
Yeah.
And is the mission or the goal is to looking at home ownership? Is that why?
So it's both, and that's a great question. So going back to just kind of acknowledging what's going on here in sort of our immediate area. So Lacey is at about a 42% renter population right now. Olympia is just above 52%. Tumwater's right in there as well. So we have a lot of renters. And so we want to make sure that we are continuing to have enough housing stock and supply for our renter population. But then also, as you're saying, and as the information is hoping to, get us in the right direction towards more home ownership opportunities. And so going back to that unit lot subdivision where, say, a triplex or a quad or anything with multiple units can start to be chunked out and sold with the land underneath. The theory there, is really, we're looking at the smaller footprint, and it doesn't mean that it necessarily will be small. There's not really a square footage cap on middle housing. There's not anything really mandating that. But, I think that the rhetoric along with, when people are adding these to already existing lots, they'll be limited on size, right? And so it may end up yielding some of these opportunities to have like single person like myself. I would love to find something to buy that's like 800 square feet. It's perfect for me. But the options are a little bit more limited to purchase, right? So I think that there can be positive things coming out of it for both the renter population as well as those who are seeking to get into home ownership.
Yeah, because the first thing that I wrote down was about, what about people with disabilities, as you were talking about the older people, but then the next thing I wrote down as you kept talking was condos. And so when I saw condos in there, I was like, okay, that makes sense. I like the idea of condos because you don't see a lot of, like I've got where I live in UGA, there's a couple of duplexes. I don't see a lot of condos out in this area. So that would be something nice for smaller families, or like, I'm thinking of my son who lives in Seattle and he's renting, but it's like, why don't you get a condo? It's just you and your girlfriend right now, and that's something that you can have ownership of down the road. So I love that idea. And then her and I both had noted down, when you were talking about mandates or different rules and regulations, we both wrote down Airbnb. That's kind of what I think of as far as somebody maybe having it and subletting it as either an Airbnb or subletting it to somebody else. What would be the rules
Yeah, do
for
we have-
that?
Does Lacey have rules about?
Short-term rental rules is what I'm hearing, and
Short-term
we certainly allow for short-term rentals here in the city.
If we just start, building more of these ADUs, that's a perfect little spot to.
I think that I'm really grateful that you brought this up, and
I do a lot of
if
that, being an
you-
entrepreneur going from place to place. I'm all about the
if
Airbnb life.
Yeah, if you guys are amenable to it, I'd love to dig into that a little bit more and get back to you with some information
Yeah.
if that's something that would be helpful. I know it would be helpful to me. It's kind of interesting timing too. I just saw some information today about some potential new taxes on Airbnbs. So that could change the landscape there as well,
Yeah.
depending on if that passes or not. So
What percentage is allowed to, in a city, and how
To
that
be-
impacts
Right,
the
because
rent.
certainly, and this is the conversation right here, certainly if we want to aim to provide some more opportunities for folks for housing ownership, for home ownership.
Business
There
ownership
are-
too.
There are some concerns in areas, which is probably why this tax is, out there on the floor.
Yeah.
That is taking up a fair share of the housing stock that would normally serve some of the,
Yeah.
incoming homeowners.
And then
So-
HOAs, would any of those be like an HOA type of thing?
And that also is a really good question that I was thinking of as we were talking, because I was thinking comparatively to condo models. I was about to say, the good news would be, you maybe wouldn't have those astronomically or what can get very high HOAs as seen in condo models. It may depend on how a developer sets set something up. But unless it were already in an area with an HOA, I would think that this could be an opportunity to not have those.
So, and just to clarify too, so, the city would have its own zoning code, regulations, and that's part of what, Jennifer's here talking about, hey, we're gonna do a deep dive into and see, what exactly that's gonna look like. But there are pre-existing, covenants and restrictions in HOA
HOAs,
communities.
Yeah.
Would still continue
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Yeah, yeah.
And just as long as we're on the topic of that really quickly, I didn't highlight this evening, goes a little deeper into the weeds, but middle housing may not be allowed, right, in communities that have an existing HOA that
Right.
doesn't allow for this, and that will remain. New HOAs that are formed in the future by a developer won't have that opportunity. Middle housing will now, these unit lot subdivisions and ADUs and all of that will have to be allowed.
So that was part of my question. Have you kind of looked into the location where these will be allowed?
So I just
Building?
love what I'm hearing out of this group tonight. Thank you so much. I feel like we're all like, you're aligning me and so that is kind of the next phase that we are stepping into right now. So we're actually working with our GIS team here at Lacey with the hope, you heard it first, with the hope of getting out some interactive maps on our website that will help us kind of identify that, right? Like, where's the opportunity? And so it'll take a little bit of time for us to get that together and up and running, but we'd like to provide that as a tool so that, initially at a high level, anybody could get on and look at any address and just see, am I in an area that has an HOA that may prohibit the middle housing? Am I in an area that might allow middle housing? What about ADUs? So to get as much as you can with just an interactive map would be something we'd like to see rolling out. So we're working. In that
Yeah, I
direction.
was like imagining more like, there's Rob Rice construction going,
Mhm.
something like that, where you will have to identify a big lot and then go in, or are you kind of like penetrating ones that without the HOA, maybe you can just go existing community? I mean, is it like?
I think that it can be both. I think that the vision and what we've mainly talked about tonight and focused on is those sort of infill opportunities, like you're saying, like you're talking about, right? Maybe on my acre, I've got half an acre left where I can put up a triplex, right? And serve the needs of some other families. I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's
It'll
okay.
come
Yeah,
back to me,
that's
but
fine.
that was a good.
And then my another question was at the beginning, when you first started, you share a stat that white family was like 890,000 more than BIPOC, or that's incredible. How could,
That was
that's a
talking,
lot of money.
yeah, no,
I'd
that's
like to see the source of that.
absolutely. And I will get that to you. Is that something I could send to you as well? I'd be happy to give
Yeah,
you some more
I'd like to
context to
shop.
that. Yeah, so, and this is focusing. So this generally includes, I don't want to get off without having a lot of notes. I don't want to get too off base with it. But this is really looking at the generational wealth ability that white persons have typically had over our BIPOC community members. And so some of these numbers from this statistic were taken out of that
Sure,
context.
those people
So-
have that much more. Poor them.
And this is probably asset driven, and so a lot of that is probably value in homeownership is what I'm guessing, and I'd be.
That's a nationwide.
assets.
Yes, it
That's
is.
not anything local. I mean, but probably local, maybe pretty similar.
That's a
How
good
many-
question. That's a good question, and I could look into some, there's some TRPC
data.
data
Yeah.
to see if I can't find some more information on our wealth gap here in Thurston County.
The source is the Brookings Institute, which might
This
have
is the
some
Brookings
more
Institute.
like regional, at least to break that
Yeah.
down, but
Thank you for bringing that also to my attention, because I can I can narrow that down a little bit further.
We're gonna get this, right?
You are gonna get every slide deck that was shown today.
This one was
I
very-
promise, I promise. And like Jennifer mentioned, there's a lot of things that was presented with this. And so certainly if you're thinking of things and have questions and comments, we can bring Jennifer back at a future meeting, whether it's March or April, and you all can provide some additional feedback and updates on, after you've digested it a little bit more.
Building on top of, I know you're looking at like space, open space, but what about, building on top of, not on top of existent businesses, but like having housing on top of buildings, that way you don't have to worry too much about, traffic or transportation. If a family would rather, maybe they don't have a car or one car because the other, somebody else doesn't have a car, but it would be easier for them to maybe live in Midtown, have accessibility to their shopping and all of that stuff as well.
So what's the difference between apartments and all these things that we're gonna do? Why not do an apartment? It seems to me pretty
So,
homeowner,
Yeah,
you
that's
can
a really,
sell.
that's a really good question as well.
yeah.
So again, I think the middle term, it's kind of this big, bucket of collecting what's not a single family home and what's not a big apartment complex. So you might even, I'm gonna just pick a number slightly arbitrary, but like 12 units. Something with 12 units might really fit the bill for this is providing middle housing. But I think there's different variables, and so a lot of the projects will be a little bit situational, right? To really narrow down, is this serving that middle housing need? Typically, they are connected, except for in the situation of courtyard apartments where they can be clustered around like an open space area. But generally that's the difference, to provide avenues towards homeownership, smaller footprints. And then hopefully apartments aren't always as accessible for, say, some of the senior populations. Of course, they have elevators and things most commonly, but just there again, providing some smaller options that are 1-story on smaller lots in established neighborhoods that may serve, some.
So
Some
that
sort
it
of
still looks like a neighborhood, it's not
Yes,
so.
it's in a neighborhood integration, and that's, yeah, and that's a great
Infill,
great
yeah.
way for it as well. So middle housing, those design standards, though the city, if we remember, can't go any stricter on design standards than what, would be deemed for the single family homes within that neighborhood. Design review would certainly, and that will involve our community. How do we want, when we make those decisions, what do we want these different types of units to look like in our neighborhoods,
Yeah, I
right?
would love to see
Seriously,
some
this
sort
is
of
very
a
interesting.
carbon print for the apartment type of a dwelling versus these new concepts
Yes,
for our environment.
Yeah.
Because if we can change the law, I don't know, something where you can own apartment. Because Korea, other countries, they allow you to buy apartments,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know, that's why I'm
Sure.
asking, like, what does that really do to our environment? Creating a lot of these small homes and, how's the crime and.
And that's a really interesting question as well. And there's theories I'm happy to send research specific to the middle housing, and send you what is coming down, from Commerce. Commerce is spearheading this initiative statewide for all of the jurisdictions. So they're providing guidance for us. And they do have literature about, some potential impacts on climate. Now, what I will say, and this reflects their literature, I don't want to make any claims for, Lacey's belief in anything. We're not quite there yet. But the research on middle housing, if done the way that they conceptualize adding infill into existing neighborhoods, the research is suggesting that it in fact produces much less greenhouse gas emissions than would building in the urban sprawled pattern that we have been building at. So it's looking at an opportunity to come back. Where's the existing infrastructure, right? So when we sprawl, we have to provide that infrastructure first, which is a significant cost. And then it's also tough on the environment, right? So the more we're digging up. So it's interesting that you bring that point up because the research so far is suggesting, hey, this is actually going to be more helpful on our climate than not.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more on that.
Yeah. I mean,
But-
there would be a huge factor for me as a person to support this or not. I mean, if
Mhm.
what kind of environmental
Yeah.
impact we're talking about, because that's important.
Mhm.
It's really.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Vice Chair Sauer, maybe I misheard, so just for anybody who heard it the same way I was too, I just want to clarify that with the middle housing, there would be opportunities for, you know, like Jennifer highlighted, opportunities for increased homeownership, but it also could be increased rental units as well to house more individuals.
And then when you're also speaking of an older adult, what would, like I could see with myself and, you know, my kids are grown now and wanting to make a smaller, like move into something smaller versus what about having, you know, assisted living or not assisted living, but like, what do we call, like Rebel, where they're.
Senior center. type of
Yeah, like
senior
where
living.
not necessarily,
Senior living.
where they're independent senior living versus downsizing from a house that you had, you know, maybe you wanna leave that to the kids, but you still wanna own something smaller. What would be the advantage of that to just going into 55 or plus community or a place like Rebel where it's, you know, senior living and they're independent living?
I think it would largely depend on the need and mobility, you know, of each individual person. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of senior adults that are still getting around really
Yeah,
well and
yeah.
enjoying kind of their independence. And then there may be many others who really would thrive best in a supportive, you know, environment. But I think, you know, across the board, the message, and not necessarily tied to middle housing, but I think across the board, you know, we're right on track with our conversations in terms of needing more accommodations for everybody, different needs. And so I think the message for us is we want to come together as a community and really step up with the state and do what we can to work towards those goals, you know.
And knowing that senior population is growing, it's like pretty much that's the trend anywhere, right? So that kind of needs to accommodate, I think, for that population as well.
I think Commissioner Hart, back to the question, and I think Jennifer did a really good job of highlighting this. It's not like what's the advantage, disadvantage, it's providing opportunities and options for individuals moving forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we can kind of look at it that way, can't we? Just another tool to provide some more opportunities, right?
Exactly.
And
And it could go both ways for the aging as well as
Yeah.
the younger that are, you know.
yeah, and so again, with this context, you guys have been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But what I was gonna say is, as things come to mind within kind of this context, things that you'll think about that I haven't, I want to be able to bring that, you know, to our planning commission and, you know, hear things out of other commissions. So please don't hesitate to, my contact's on the last slide, so you'll have that.
So I have an unrelated question. If it's okay.
Yes,
I know we're like really late and everybody tired. What happened to all those tent that we saw by the I-5, you know, right? This area, where are all those people first gone?
Oh,
Where
Big
they were
camps.
sent?
Yes.
Yeah, those like tent,
So,
there's a big rocks there now.
Sure, yeah, Jennifer, you wanna?
sure, yeah, so, Washington State, the last couple of years, just prior to COVID, had Governor Inslee signed what was called a right-of-way initiative, a state right-of-way initiative. It now has a different name. But under that initiative, the goal was to assist encampments that we were seeing on lots of different right-of-way areas throughout the state, to assist those camps towards finding some type of housing. And so we had an opportunity here through that initiative and with all of our partners, so Thurston County, Olympia, and others, so many, to acquire the old Days Inn Hotel. So
Oh,
that's
good.
it's been on news blurbs and things like that. So it's now called Maple Court. And so that facility here within Lacey city limits, but representing a regional project for our area. The folks that were in the encampment here, I think that's one you were speaking to. Almost all of those folks were able to get housed up here in Maple Court. So it's not permanent supportive housing. It's a low barrier as the first step to getting those wraparound services. And so, yeah, so didn't mean to be
Okay,
long-winded
Right,
about that.
well,
but
thank you.
it's- Mhm.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Commissioners, I will work with Jennifer to schedule another time to come back and just kind of check in on this topic for any additional feedback and thoughts. And I'll certainly send you the slide deck. And if you have any questions, just let me know and I'll make sure that Jennifer gets them and can answer them.
Nice.
Thank you so much for your time and for all of your great questions. I'll do some more digging, get back to you guys. So,
Thank you.
yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, well, moving on to commissioner reports. Things commissioners want to share. I had one thing, I just wanted to let people, remind people that the museum is having history talks, and they're gonna be here at the City Hall in March. Is Rabbi Seth Goldstein is coming to talk about 150 years of Jewish history in South Sound. And then in April is Lynn Grotzky and Lisa Brodoff, the fight for gay and lesbian adoption rights milestone on the road to LGBTQ equality. And they are also one of the people who are going to be on our, what do you call them?
Utility box wrap.
Utility boxes, where
Oh.
we're gonna get artwork on
Nice.
about community members. So that should be really good stuff. That's all that I had.
Chair, I wonder if maybe Samuel might be able to provide an update on the Lacey Youth Council Youth Summit to the rest of the group?
Oh,
That would be great.
like on what specific detail?
Can you tell them a little bit about when it's planned for and what some of the keynote speakers are and when it is?
There, it isn't confirmed and we were still having a debate in the council, a Kahoot for everyone to play. If you know what that is, it's basically a website where you have, people like log on their phones and they have to answer a bunch of questions like, what is 1 + 1? But instead of that, we have it for like, what's happening, in the city. And we're gonna have Gatorade and stuff for like, drinks, I guess.
Samuel, do you wanna let them know what date it is?
Tentative date.
March 16th.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's coming up.
So this is a first ever Lacey Youth Council, so I'm very excited about it. I know Samuel and the rest of the youth council members and Sadie Siglin, our management analyst, and Alyssa in our human resources department have been working really hard to put this together. So it's going to be a couple hours on Saturday, March 16th, and it's going to have a human resources fair, where there'll be opportunities for members of the youth to come in and learn about, not only job opportunities, but to work on things like their resume, get headshots and make connections.
Oh, wow.
And then the Lacey Youth Council has also picked a couple of keynote topics that they wanted to talk about as part of the summit. And so they're gonna be talking about conflict resolution and access to behavioral health services. And so we've got speakers on both items coming to
Great.
participate. So I'll send out some information just for your all awareness, if you want to help get the word out on our first ever Lacey Youth Council.
Yeah,
Summit.
where is it advertised so far? I'm certain that they have something online.
Yep,
social
absolutely.
medias.
You can find it on our Facebook account, you can find it on our website, and you can also find it on the Lacey Life, which is our print and digital mailer. There should be advertisements for the last couple of months.
All right,
Yay,
that's exciting.
yeah.
All right, about director's report.
I have a couple of items, commissioners. I'll start number one with the diversity, equity, and inclusion belonging strategic plan. I just wanted to give you kind of a overview of where we're at since we didn't talk about it and do a workshop at this meeting. Obviously, we had a lot of great presentations and materials to go over. So right now, the executive team is undergoing review. They've provided some general feedback on the mission, vision, and values, and are taking a look at benchmarks and baselines that we talked about establishing for 2024. And so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to consolidate that review and get some copies back for the Commission on Equity to take a look at their March meeting, with the idea that hopefully we can go out to the public and get feedback after that point in time, so we can continue moving along in the process. So I just wanted to give you an update. We are still working on it, and we'll be back at the next meeting to talk about it. Moving on to my second item, which is the Lacey Cultural Celebration. I just want to remind everybody that I sent out an email asking for shifts if you wanted to sign up. We do have a booth there, and so I would love to have some Commission on Equity members participate. We're thinking of a very similar setup as to what we did last year, unless this body has some other ideas. But we would ask kind of the similar questions and allowing people to use sticky notes to provide their feedback and write what they are interested in telling us. And then we'd also have the wheel that you'd get to spin and get a prize so that we can get more children and families to stop by to give us feedback.
And this is 10 to 6 on that day, right?
It is, yep.
What are the?
Do you have the list? I mean,
Yeah,
I think I
the
volunteered and I can't remember. You did-
I we can certainly sign you up right after this for the list and make sure that you were on
Yeah, cause I'm
schedule.
gonna take a look. I'm not gonna be
I
at that
volunteered.
event this year, but I do have another event that afternoon, so I gotta take a look and see what's available still earlier, hopefully.
I had one suggestion, since at the end of this year, we will be recruiting new commission members. I wonder if we could develop just a little flyer. This is what commissioners do, interested in being a commissioner, just something that people could be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe last time we had like a advisory board like page you could scan and learn a little bit more. I do want to recognize too that commissioners do have an opportunity for an additional term if they are interested in serving an additional term.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's a great idea, and we can certainly make sure we have something to that effect.
We'll talk about.
The last item I had on my prescribed bullet points, then I've got a few more, is the community forum planning. And I just want to make sure, you know, Commissioner Hart, I heard your comment about the All Abilities Community Forum and wanting to host it sometime when the weather was nice. And I was thinking the next one would be in April, which could be kind of hit or miss with the weather. So I was hoping to maybe get a couple of commissioners to volunteer on helping plan the next community forum. And maybe we want to think about extending the All Abilities one to later in the year where it could be outdoors. If not, we can certainly move forward with the planning in April.
Yeah, cause that one, the depot, it's covered, but it's I guess it doesn't have any doors on the indoor building. So, I mean, it could work if I maybe brought a couple of my canopies to kind of give it more of an entryway that's a little bit more sheltered and protected. But I went and looked at it and it's got the accessibility, like the ramps and all of that stuff. So if people needed a wheelchair or a walker service, there's not a lot of steps. So that's the only downfall to it. But yeah.
So maybe commissioners, if I could send out an email to you, Commissioner Hart, and maybe another commissioner to start talking about what that forum could look like and planning that if there's another commissioner who might be interested in kind of helping spearhead that effort.
Okay. Okay.
So you don't need to let me know tonight, but if you are interested, please email me and let me know and we'll get that on the books and start planning for an event. A couple of other items that I just wanted to bring up really quickly is that our advisory board stipend program, just as a reminder, we're asking all of our advisory board members to opt in by the end of this month. So that gives individuals 3 days. And also to take our demographic survey in addition to that. And if there is any, issues with logging on at this point, I know our city clerk's office is always happy to help and they've been through it a few times now, so they are really efficient and very helpful. But again, just want to put it on your radar that we are, 3 days away from when we're asking everybody to sign in, to opt into the program and take the demographic survey. The final item that I had on my list was just to let you know, I know at the last meeting, there was a request to have the sustainability coordinator come to a future Commission on Equity meeting. And so we have them scheduled for our next meeting in March. And that is everything I have, Chair.
Right. Well, it's been a great meeting. Well, nothing else, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
What do I say? I move.
Mhm.
I move the entertain the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's been adjourned.
The motion carried, I hear.
Motion carried. Adjourned.
Fantastic.
Any vote?
And so